Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I See What You're Saying, the Disciplined Listening Podcast. I'm Michael Reddington, and today it is my pleasure to welcome our next guest, Dre Baldwin. Dre developed himself from a high school bench player into enjoying a 9-year career overseas as a professional basketball player. In his post-basketball career, he has given 4 TED Talks. He has published 41 books. He's the host of the Work on Your Game podcast, and he teaches people how to dominate through structure and discipline. And I'm really excited to share this conversation with all of you today. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so very much. And Dre's going to dive into a lot of detail and go in many directions, including how can we develop our presence? What is that relationship between structure and discipline? The power of gaining experience, and why he believes and has experienced it is the third day that separates the most successful from everybody else. This really is a great conversation. He has so much to share. I'm thankful he took the time to join us, and I'm thankful you took the time to join us again for another conversation as well. Thank you so much. While you're here today, please just take a quick second to like the show. Please subscribe to the show. Leave us your feedback as well. We would love to hear from you. While you're online today, take a quick moment to just check out our sponsors. You have humantel.com. Head over to humantel.com in order to begin developing the skill set to identify when people's emotions are likely shifting by accurately evaluating changes in their facial expressions and nonverbal communication. Choose the online training program of your choice and enter Inclusive25 for 25% off that best-in-class online training over at humantel.com. For the professional interviewers, please head over to certifiedinterviewer.com. That's where you can get all your questions answered, learn everything you need to know about both the International Association of Interviewers and the Certified Forensic Interviewer designation. All of it's there for you at certifiedinterviewer.com. And finally, while you're online today, please check out Inclusive.com. That's where you can learn more about the programs our clients ask us to custom facilitate for their senior leaders, sales teams, HR teams, and more to teach them the techniques required to uncover hidden value in all of their high impact conversations. We appreciate you being here for another week. Thank you so very much. So now, without further ado, I introduce to you, Dre Baldwin. Good morning, Dre. It is so great to meet you. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I really appreciate you taking the time. Excited for the conversation. Really excited to learn more about your journey, of course, but really how you channel that experience that you have had into helping people develop themselves, reach their own potential, lead others, all the things that you write about. Really excited to get into it. So with all the books you've written and things you talk about, trying to pick one place to start the conversation was a bit of a, throw a dart and see where it lands. Where are we going to start this? But I think probably a good center point to start the conversation would be you spend a lot of time helping people develop their presence. So to start the conversation, how do you work with people to develop their presence in front of audiences?
Great question. Well, let me say it this way. It's something that I naturally developed over time, Michael, without even thinking about it. I wasn't doing it on purpose. But going into 2025 or sometime during this year, I don't know when this is going to come out, it'll probably be 2026. I got to thinking about things around it because I just started noticing how people were responding to me or even reacting to me or engaging with me based on context clues that they were picking up, not things that I was actually telling them and things that I was for sure they didn't know, but they were responding to me in certain ways like, why is this person? And I just got to thinking about it. I've always been a big student of human psychology and how people think and how our thoughts lead to our actions. And I knew that they didn't know things for sure about me, but they were responding in ways that showed they understood those things. And I got to thinking, well, how would they know that and that? And it got me to just thinking about it and piecing all these things together. And that's when I came up with the concept of the power of presence. And that's when I started talking about it on purpose, which is probably why you asked the question, because I talk about it on purpose now. So helping people develop presence is first helping them get conscious and getting conscious of the unconscious. So what I always tell people and remind people of, because I didn't make this up, 85% of our thoughts and behaviors are unconscious and nonverbal, they're automatic. So our instincts are doing most of the thinking for us. Our subconscious mind is doing most of the thinking for us, but most of us think we make all our decisions logically and based on some deep analysis. And because we're just so smart, this is why we make the decisions that we make. That's all nonsense. We make decisions based on the unconscious stuff, the nonverbal things, and then we come up with conscious reasoning or quote unquote logic to back up why we've done what we've done. So helping people develop presence is first helping people get aware of this 85% of communication, 85% of our thought processes are nonverbal and unconscious, and then getting us to understand in order to really change how other people see us or how we engage with the world or how the world engages with us, Michael, is that we have to work on programming our instincts or our subconscious minds to communicate in a certain way that causes other people to read certain things in us that they're picking up instinctively before we open our mouths, that is outside of our conscious words and our conscious behaviors, because that's where all the communication is happening anyway. And once people understand and accept this, then they're open to, okay, how do we do it? And all of those things, your internal discipline, your confidence or lack thereof, what you're thinking, how you're feeling, if you are emotionally reacting or engaging with the environment or with the person in front of you or vice versa, all of those things all coalesce into one signal. And that signal is what I call presence. But presence isn't one thing. It's a combination of a whole bunch of things that all come out as one signal. And that's what people feel in you. Yet most people cannot consciously or verbally explain why they're feeling what they're feeling.
Dude, I love all of that, and want to echo what you said about so many of the decisions that we make are subconscious, behind the scenes. We're not as I've been told way too many times that I'm too logical, and I probably am, but I fully agree and understand that I'm not making fully logical decisions. Like, there's emotional components into all of this that's going on. So love the fact that you highlighted that. And I also love how you talked about context clues and picking up that other people were getting context clues from you, and then taking the time to sort of step back and really think through what those were. So when you look back on some of the context clues that people were picking up with you that you now teach other people, what are some of these more powerful context clues that we can take from the unconscious to the conscious in order to use to our advantage?
Well, it's some things that they're obvious that you can see with the human eye, but a lot of people don't constantly think about why they believe them. So for example, I have a 3-year-old son. So my son is old enough to where I can't just take him on a walk. He needs to actually do something. So I usually take him to a park. And when I take him to the park, obviously there's other kids that age, and with other kids, you get other parents. And parents would often come up to me, because when I take my kids to the park, I'm in South Florida, by the way. So when I take my kids to the park at 5:00 today, which I'll do again today, I'm going to change out of the suit and into casual clothing, t-shirt, shorts, no basketball sneakers. Then when people see me, I'm 6'4", they see me and they immediately assume athlete. They immediately assume basketball player. I get parents coming up to me saying, "Are you a ball player? Are you an athlete? What sport do you play?" And they don't know me. They don't know me from anywhere. They didn't Google me. They didn't take a picture of me and send it to their friend and say, "Hey, who's this guy?" They automatically assume it based on the context clue. Right, this guy's tall, he's athletic, and they can probably tell by the way that I'm carrying myself, a certain level of confidence, discipline, and they automatically read that into a conversation if they feel comfortable enough to talk. Another example is I was at a car dealership about 4 or 5 months ago, and the guy was at the service department. I'm getting a tire change. And he asked me just offhand, he said, "Are you in the military?" And I said, "No, I've never been in the military." And then he asked me, "What do you do for a living?" And I told him, I explained to him what I just explained to you in more shorthand about presence and about discipline and turning discipline into dominance and using it for business. And he said, "Okay, that makes sense. I figured." And I asked him, "Why do you ask?" He said, "Because I've worked in sales for a long time. And in sales, one of the first things they teach you is how to read people and figure out who they are and what they're about so that you can better tailor your conversation." And I've had many people ask me if I've ever been in the military. I have not been in the military. My family's not military. But what people are reading, Michael, is the discipline. And they can read it just by the way you carry yourself. By the way you walk into the room and sit down, they can read the discipline. By the way you carry yourself, they read it. By the way you talk, they can read the discipline. And again, people who are really sharp at this can read it in 10 seconds. People who are not so sharp, it might take them 10 minutes or 10 days. But people pick up on that stuff unconsciously. There are a few who are able to verbalize it. Most people don't verbalize it. They just behave based on what they picked up, even though they never say why they're doing it. So these are small context clues that people can pick up, but people can pick up other things such as confidence. They can pick up, what do you do for a living? When I'm walking around in a suit, I always get people asking me if I'm a lawyer. I get asked if I'm a lawyer like once a week. I'm not a lawyer. I've never passed the bar. Didn't take a law. I never took a law class in my life. I'm good at arguing though, so I guess I can be a good lawyer. But I get people asking me that all the time, or people assuming I work in finance just because of the way that I carry myself and the way that I'm dressed. And even people who live in my same building, they see me all the time, but never talk to me. They assume these things without ever speaking. And then when they speak to me and they find out what I actually do and my background, they always say something like, okay, now it makes sense. Because the way I'm presenting myself and the way I carry myself, just off energy, without speaking to me at all, they don't even know my name. They have a story in their mind about me. And then when they talk to me, everything I tell them consciously only multiplies and amplifies the story that they already had. That's why the first question you asked me about presence is so important, because human beings make snap judgments about people very quickly. And then everything they find out, all it does is verify what they already thought, even if what they thought is a lie. Anything they find out is just going to verify, and they'll just use their own reasoning to come up with a justification for why what they originally thought is still true, even if what they thought was not true and is still not true. They'll just continue believing it anyway. I'm sure we've all seen that experience, and all of us are guilty of it, as well as noticing it in other people. But we tend to be pretty good at pointing out when somebody else does it, not so much when we do it to ourselves.
It's discomfort, man. It's way more comfortable than when you say, no, it's got to be your fault. Can't be mine. Why would I want to take accountability for myself and admit that I might have had something wrong? Right. All great points. You talked about, I'll highlight one thing. You talk about like when people see you, I'm not wearing a suit today. Maybe I should have, but when I teach, I do. And so one of the things that makes me laugh when you talk about people making assumptions is we were talking earlier, I live in the Charlotte area. I'll do a local program, dress in a suit, do my thing. And then inevitably within 2 weeks, I'll be at the grocery store. I'll be at the gas station. I'll be at Lowe's. I'll be somewhere. And because it's the weekend, I'll be in shorts, a t-shirt, and sneakers. And I will walk past somebody like in the aisle within feet that I just saw at that program. They will look right through me. I just saw them within a couple of weeks. Unfortunately for them, I had to stand in front of them for at least an hour, but because now it's a different context, I'm dressed in different clothes. It's like I'm a completely different human being. So you hit a really good point, and it's, again, context plays an important role, but it is funny how people do make assumptions based on how we dress, how we present ourselves, how we show up, and all of those things. To that point, you mentioned something that I was going to table for later, but I'm just going to jump to it right now because I know it's something else that you spend a lot of time teaching and talking about, which is turning discipline into dominance for business. So when I think about discipline, I think about, getting up when my alarm goes off, doing the workouts when I'm supposed to do the workouts, forcing myself to do the work when I'm supposed to do the work, being where I'm supposed to be. But beyond that, what does being disciplined mean to you? And then how do we turn that into dominance for business?
Well, what discipline means is following a certain set of rules and parameters, following a certain set of standards, and using some type of correctional process if you're not following it. And everybody understands the general concept of discipline. If you were to ask 100 people on the street, do you want more discipline in any aspect of life? Michael, everybody would say yes. And the challenge is, if you ask them, why don't you have it? Most of them probably laugh in spite of themselves because they're just not doing it. Usually people answer some form of, I'm just not doing it, or I just need to, or I just need to get motivated, et cetera, et cetera. What people miss when it comes to discipline is where it comes from. Because a lot of people incorrectly think that discipline comes from willpower or motivation, that you just force yourself to do it. Problem is, no human being can force themselves to do something that they don't want to do for an extended period of time. Eventually, something has to give. Either you're going to stop doing it or you have to somehow find a reason to want to do it. Where discipline actually comes from is structure. When there's a clear structure in place, and discipline is natural. For example, if there's a person who goes to the gym all the time, but they're not getting the results they want, well, they'll hire a personal trainer. What does the personal trainer provide? Personal trainer provides structure. They tell you what time to come to the gym. They tell you exactly what to do, how much of it to do, when to take a break, when to get some water. Here's how we're going to stretch. Here's what you can and can't eat between now and the next session. And here's what time to be here next time. So all the personal trainer is doing is providing structure. Now, is the trainer giving you anything that you didn't necessarily have access to before? Not really. You still have access. You're in the same gym. You could have been doing that stuff yourself. Maybe you didn't know to do it. You didn't know how this exercise worked with that exercise. You didn't have anyone holding you accountable, so you weren't doing it. You know what to eat and what not to eat and what aisles to not go down in the grocery store, but you do it anyway. But with the trainer there, now you're holding yourself accountable. And now that you paid them, you're probably going to make your investment worth it. So now you're getting the results. So what the trainer is providing is a structure and a system that staves off the chaos. So since I'm bringing that word up, there's a scientific theory or law called entropy. The law of entropy states that everything is always moving to a higher state of chaos and disorder. And the only thing that staves off chaos and disorder, because it's a natural occurrence, is having standards, rules, and parameters. So when you have standards, rules, and parameters, I'll just call that word, that structure. When you have structure and you follow it consistently, you naturally get discipline because you're following the structure over and over and over again. It's like having a job. When you go to a job, the first thing they do is train you. And what are they training you on? The structure, the parameters, the system, the rules. Here's how it works. As long as you keep following them, you are disciplined at the job, because when you show up to the job, you know the rules, you follow the rules, you keep your job, you break the rules, you get fired. And discipline consistently followed produces the thing that everybody really wants, which is confidence. Consistent discipline produces confidence. That's what people really want, is confidence. People don't really want discipline. They know that they need it. They don't want it. People want the confidence. And confidence, again, is not something that you just randomly get. It comes from consistently following those rules, parameters, and structures. That discipline is the foundation. The confidence goes on top. And to answer your question finally here, you asked, how does you turn discipline into dominance for business? When you are consistent at what you do, you consistently show up and you build a reputation for showing up. First of all, that creates dependence. It makes you somebody that people can look to, and you become something you're something that's a regular. You're a consistency in their lives or in their businesses. And human beings may say that they like surprises, but generally we don't. We are creatures of habit. We like things that we can predict, where we know exactly what's going to happen, exactly how it's going to happen over and over and over again, especially if it's something that we want to occur. So you can become dominant just by being disciplined and showing up consistently. So I'll give you a quick anecdote here that actually illustrates this pretty well, because I was thinking about this morning. In my background as an athlete, I played professional sport for nearly a decade, playing basketball overseas. The thing that made me have a career is not that I was necessarily so much more talented than my peers. There's a baseline level of talent you have to have if you want to be eligible to play a sport at a certain level. But once you're above that level, now you're competing against everybody else who's above that level. And there are more people above the level than there are jobs. So just because you're above that level of talent does not mean you'll play. There's a lot of players who are quote unquote good enough who are not playing basketball, football, baseball, tennis, hockey, golf professionally, even though they have the skill. What allowed me to have that career as an athlete was the discipline, my consistency, the fact that I just showed up every single day, the fact that I was able to keep marketing, promoting, selling myself, the fact that I was able to keep working on, how do I get the next opportunity, next one, and the fact that I continually worked on my game as an athlete to keep getting better and or to stay good once I got good. That's what turned my discipline into dominance, because my discipline was my main thing that I could show up with, because not everybody has the same level of talent. And different people have different talents and at different levels. But discipline is a choice. Anyone can be disciplined if they choose to be disciplined. And that's how it turns into dominance, because it's an available option that anybody can use, yet most people don't.
Man, there's so much gold in what you just said all the way through. You didn't have to answer my question. You could have kept going. There was so much gold in what you just said. I really appreciate. And I love how you equate discipline to structure. I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, and they like to say environment is stronger than will. So you can want something as much as you want, but if you don't create the right environment around it, good luck. To your point, that motivation is going to go away. And I even just listening to you, thinking about how I can improve structure in different areas for me, but even like just one small switch, if I wanted to stop hitting snooze, so I had to put the phone out of arm's reach. If I have to stand up to shut my alarm off in the morning, well, now I put the structure in place. I'm already up and out of bed. There's no point in hitting snooze and lying back down. I'm already standing up. Now I've got to start my day and I've got to keep moving. So I love how you talk about that specifically. And I want to get back to some of the lessons you learned. You mentioned playing basketball overseas, so I don't want to forget that or ignore that. I'd love to come back to it. But when you talk about structure specifically for dominating in business, 100% agree with you. Consistency equals trustworthy. When we can become predictable, to steal a word that you use, just being predictable is being trustworthy. People know where we're going to be. They know what we're going to do. They know how we're going to respond, react. That makes us more trustworthy. Are there particular structures that you work on with people in order to translate that dominance into business?
Absolutely. Is there a specific area, a specific type of person you want to focus on? And I can be more granular.
Great question. I think leadership is just a broad enough topic that it probably covers the majority of people who are with us because they're leading their teams, they're leading conversations, they're leading their family. So it is generally applicable as you want. Or if you've got a favorite example, man, we're here to highlight you. So if there's a great example you want to use, we're cool with that too.
Yeah. So the question is how to help a person turn discipline into dominance.
Yeah, but specific structures for business. Like, are there structures that you use specifically to work into the business world?
Absolutely. So number one, if you're going to use discipline, turn into dominance in the business world, number one, you must embody what you're going to teach. Whatever you're going to tell other people to do, you have to be doing it. You got to be living it. And not even doing it, but living it, being it is the difference between doing something and being it. And when you represent discipline, then people will naturally fall in line behind you and your discipline because they can feel that you are living whatever it is you may talk about. And the thing is, when you're seriously disciplined, you don't have to talk about it. You think of someone like, let's just, I was going to say Michael Jordan, but let's say somebody who's business-wise, somebody like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was maniacal about the way he ran his company and the way he wanted things to go. I was talking about this earlier today, as a matter of fact. That, when you buy an Apple product and you open up the box and it opens really slowly, that slow open box, that he wanted it that way. That was not a quirk. He said, I wanted to open this way because I want it to be like a reveal. I want to reveal our products. You don't just open the box. And that he wanted the slick, smooth design of the iPhone. And everybody probably knows by this point, many of your audience probably knows, he pioneered the all glass exterior of the phone, because before the Apple phone came out, you had a button on the phone. You had buttons. He said, I don't want the buttons. I want glass that they can just tap. And it was very hard to find that glass. But now everybody probably uses that glass because the smartphone came out. So he represented being maniacal about the way the company ran. Jeff Bezos is another example. Elon Musk is another example. And what's the other guy? Mark Zuckerberg is another example, where I was just talking about this morning, as a matter of fact, because Apple had announced that they made this big investment in AI and tech and things like that. And I was asking an audience, how many hours a week you think you have to work if you're going to get one of those big jobs where they're poaching each other from different companies? And this is 70 to 100 hours a week. And somebody was saying, well, what about life? There's no life there. I said, this is your life. You don't go to sleep. You wake up, you work 14 hours, you go to sleep, you wake up and go back to work. That's the environment. And you can be damn sure the boss is doing it, because they're expecting everybody else to do it. So the number one way in business that you turn discipline into dominance is whatever discipline you're expecting your team to have, you need to have it. And the reality is, if you actually have it and you're actually living it, you don't have to tell people that you're living it, because they can feel it. They can see it. That's the real thing. When you're really disciplined and you're really confident, or you're really structured, any of these words we want to throw in there, if you really are those things, you never have to announce it, because people can feel it in the way you carry yourself. They will see it if you're doing it all the time. Eventually, they're going to see it, or they're going to hear about it from somebody else. And they're going to naturally fall in line behind you, because you're the leader who is exemplifying the very thing that you want everybody else to have. So that's the number one thing that I would tell to a leader, is that whatever you want the team to do, you got to make sure you're doing it. If you're living it, then they're naturally going to follow it, or they're going to get out. They're going to get out because they can't live up to the level that you're at, or they're going to follow you because they want to live up to the level that you're at. The last thing I'll say is, I was speaking about this, talking about the AI companies these days. Again, you're working 70 to 100 hours a week, but they're going to offer you $500,000 pay package and $1 million signing bonus to leave the old company to come to this company. In exchange for the money, that's what you have to do. But I remember Jeff Bezos talking about this years ago, when Amazon was the big name in any kind of tech company. And one of the things that Jeff Bezos said famously, I'm paraphrasing, was that if you're the type of person who wants to be at your kid's soccer game at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, this is not the place for you. All right, this is a place where you are all in on the job. This is an all-in job. This is not a work-life balance type of place. This is a work balance type of place. You want to have friends. You want to have a social life. You want to be around your kids. You can have kids, but your kids won't have you. All right, because you're going to be at work. And this is me talking. This is not out of Jeff Bezos' mouth, but he pretty much said that. And that's what it means to embody a certain level of discipline. And you can be disciplined for anything you want to be disciplined for. Michael, it's just a matter of, is this the discipline that you want? And are these the type of people who you want to recruit? Because generally, in my experience working with business leaders, and especially business owners, is that they tend to recruit people who are similar to them. So do you want more people who are like you? Because that's exactly what they're going to attract.
And recruiting people like you could be good or bad. On the discipline side, are you recruiting people who are educated, who are disciplined or committed, or are you just recruiting people who you like to be around that then it turn into yes men or yes women, and now it becomes more of a problem for you after that? So that's a double-edged sword. Listening to you talk about essentially leading by example makes so much sense, and doing it consistently, which breeds the trust, which then permeates the whole team, the whole organization. You played sports professionally. I most certainly did not. But when I look at professional athletes, and my son is 8 and he's into sports, plays a bunch of different sports. And when I look at him and he's looking at professional athletes, it's very good for him to watch a football game, a baseball game, a basketball game and say, well, that guy's really good. Well, hang on. Yes, he is. But to your point, how much extra work are they putting in? How disciplined are they to their routine? How much do they practice? All of these other things that are going on. So when I was getting ready for the conversation and studying your background, and if I get any of this wrong, please correct me and humiliate me rightfully in front of everybody else. But it looks like you didn't really start playing basketball until late in high school and was not a starter on your team at that point, but then continued to grow and work and develop into an 8-year professional career. And based on the parents that I see in youth sports, starting at about 5 years old, they treat their kids like they're going to be professional, even though most of them probably never will. So I'm curious, how did that process work for you, where you started instilling that discipline to go from what I'm assuming to be a late starter into a professional athlete? Because I imagine the curve for that was very steep.
Great questions. So the first thing is I started playing basketball when I was 14. So the late overall at the beginning of high school. And I didn't make my high school team until I was a senior. And my senior year, I'm 18 years of age, and I started playing pro at age 23. So 5 years later is when I started playing pro. Now, a couple of things here, especially for your son. What sport is he into?
Right now he's doing wrestling, but baseball, football, wrestling.
Okay, so it's an interesting nuance that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to professional athletes or entertainers in general. Is that because, again, I was just this morning, I was talking about these AI companies, and these are engineers that they're hiring away. And interestingly enough, I don't know if we'll come back to this or not, but they say the demand is outstripping the supply. In other words, there are these big jobs that'll pay you in the mid 6 figures, but they can't find enough people who can fill them with the skills to actually fill them. Whereas opposed to, if you want to play in the NBA or NFL, or you want to be a famous YouTuber or singer, it's a 1 in a million thing. You have a much higher chance of becoming rich as an engineer than you have as becoming rich as an athlete. But a lot of people rather go the athlete route because it looks more fun. It looks like more exciting. It's a sexier thing to do. Now, the reason I brought that up is because of this, and also because of what you mentioned with your son, is that when you look at an athlete, let's say some famous, who's his favorite athlete right now? Your son.
It's football season. He keeps asking me, people are going to get on me for this, for a Stephon Diggs jersey because we're Patriots fans.
Okay, great. Stephon Diggs. Patriots are looking pretty good. We said
surprising the hell out of me. That's for sure.
Yeah, as of the day we're recording this, they're looking pretty good. So let's say somebody like Stephon Diggs. Now, first of all, as I already explained, he had to have a certain baseline level of talent in order to be eligible to get to where he's at. There are other players who had his level of talent, but they're not there. Now, the question is, did he just outwork all those other players? Maybe. We're not sure. At a certain level of talent, nobody can outwork the gap between you and that other person. If the gap is big enough, hard work cannot beat that talent. So I know there's this saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It sounds good. And for most things, it's true. It's not always true in the entertainment and sports world, because the entertainment and sports world, especially entertainment is highly subjective, based on who likes who. That's the industry. The sports world is based on performance. And sometimes a player playing a sport is so talented that it doesn't matter how hard they work or don't work, and how hard you work or don't work, you won't close that gap because they're just that much better than you. So when we look at professional athletes, yes, you can look at the athletes and you can use them as motivation for, if you're talking to an 8-year-old or an 18-year-old and say, hey, these guys are at the pro level. You're going to get to their level. You're probably going to have to work really hard to catch up, because look how much better they are than you. And if that player is the average talented player, you're correct. But if that player is super talented, they might not have to work hard. They may still get the shot. For someone like me, let's say the quote unquote average pro level talent, you must give effort in order to even get in the room, let alone stay in the room. I had to give effort to get in the room and stay in the room. That's the reason why I talk about turning discipline into dominance, because it wasn't talent that I turned into dominance. It was discipline. combined with enough talent, they got me in there. Most athletes who get to the collegiate level, let alone the pro level, have enough talent to have a shot. Then it's the discipline that keeps them in. If you're LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, you are so much more talented than everybody else. Yes, the hard work matters because LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, that's talent combined with hard work. So you combine my level of effort with my talent, you get my career. All right, so I'm not world famous. Most people listening to this probably never heard of me before we did this recording. So for an athlete, it gets kind of tricky. So as a parent of an athlete, any parents of athletes who are listening to this, they have to understand the nuance. So some players are just so good and they look so good on TV because they're just that good. No matter how hard you work, you'll never be that. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
Now, there are most athletes at the pro level. They had to work in order to get there because most of them are replaceable. So if you look at is football your favorite sport to watch?
It is right now. I'm a bit of a generalist. I enjoy sports, but it's what's on now.
Okay. So you look at a pro sports team, Patriots, I'm assuming Boston Celtics. That's your basketball team. Okay. You look at those teams, take away the superstar guys, the guys who make the All-Star game, but everybody else, many of those players, especially guys at the end of the bench, if there are 53 guys on a football roster, everyone from number 35 on down in the hierarchy, they're all replaceable by somebody who's not in the NFL right now. Does that make sense?
It does.
And on a basketball team, there are 12 guys on the roster. Everyone from number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all of those guys will be replaced by somebody who's playing in Spain or France right now who nobody knows. Those guys are interchangeable. It's not that they're not good, but they're not so good that you got to have that guy.
Sure.
The Lakers have to have LeBron. You can't replace LeBron with anybody. You can't replace Jason Tatum with anybody. But the guy at the end of the bench whose name you don't know, now he can be replaced by somebody playing overseas because it's a structure, system, right place, right time, right fit thing for those people at that level. I don't even remember what your actual question was. You tell me the question.
It was with your, and honestly, it probably wasn't, I didn't phrase it the best way. When you started late and turned yourself into a professional athlete, leveraging discipline, how that process worked for you to turn that discipline into a professional career when you started, I'm assuming, a long time after a lot of your peers.
Yeah. So number one, I was playing a sport where you can practice and get better by yourself. I was lucky enough to choose a sport where you can do it by yourself. Even though it's a team sport, you can practice basketball alone. I often joke with people, Michael, that I should have played tennis or boxing or something or golf because I'm really more of a soloist than I am a team guy. Just my personality. But with basketball, I could practice and get better on my own. That was number one. I would just go to the outdoor parks in Philadelphia. That's where I'm actually from, Philadelphia, and practice on the outdoor courts every day. And I was slowly finding myself getting better. So by the time I got to my senior year of high school, I finally made the team, didn't really play, but I kept practicing, kept getting better, and kept building up my confidence because you need the discipline of doing the work, but also the confidence of being able to perform. Sure. You can't practice the confidence of performing without actually performing. So I need to get that game experience, those repetitions, as we say, to know that you can actually do it. On top of that, as I was slowly getting better, I also was ignorant enough to believe that I had a chance to still make it, despite the fact that the odds said the older I got, the less chance it was going to happen. Good thing for me that I came up in an era before we had all the social media and the internet, because had I been able to look around and see all the other people in the world my age and what they were doing compared to what I was doing, I might have gotten a lot more discouraged. But because I can only see what was in front of me, the people in my neighborhood, town, at my school, et cetera, I said, okay, it's only these guys. I think I can catch up to them. But had it been 100 million more, maybe I would have had a different view. The third thing is, for me to get into pro sports, I had to use the same business skills that I use now. I had to kind of market and sell myself because, as I already explained, I wasn't that good that they were coming looking for me. I was good enough that if I got them to notice me, they would have said, okay, this guy he's worth a look. But without me getting them to notice me in the first place, they would have never even considered looking at me to even consider if I was a possibility. So I had to sell myself. I had to market myself. And I realized early on in my career, before my career even began, when I was trying to get started, that I noticed, okay, I came out of a Division III college, was the third tier of college sports. And I know I'm good, but nobody else does. And nobody who matters knows that I'm good. Nobody who matters cares that I'm good. And when I say who matters, that means the decision makers who can write a check.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the other players out there, and I said, okay, most of these players, they just think that if they play well enough and show enough people that they're good, that's going to be enough. I knew that wouldn't be enough because as I explained earlier, Michael, once you pass a certain level of talent, okay, now you're in the room. but there might be 2,000 guys in that room and only 200 jobs. So who's going to be the 200 who get the job? If everyone's about the same level of talent, how does anybody decide? I said, I had to do something above and beyond just playing. And that's when I used my marketing and promoting skills. That's how I got my first basketball agent. That's how I got a lot of my jobs playing basketball. And then once they saw me, they said, okay, this guy can play and he's the one on our radar. Okay, we might as well sign him. That's pretty much how my career went. And I use those same skills of marketing and promoting and selling myself to do what I do to this very day. And it's ideally people come and seek you out. And I want to have more people coming and seeking me out, but I have no problem with going out and knocking on doors. So as they say, if no one's knocking on your door, you knock on some doors. No one's calling your phone, you ring some phones. And I've always been that type of person, which is what led to me getting into sales and entrepreneurship. So turning that discipline into my career, using that discipline to build my career is the only reason I had a career. Again, I had some skill in basketball, but not so much that I could have just sat back and waited for the phone to ring because it wasn't ringing.
And even when you talked about, it's a great illustration. And even when you talked about using your sales and marketing skills in a room of 2,000 people and 200 of us are going to get chosen, really it's taking control of your own differentiation efforts. So there has to be, I'm assuming at that point, the differentiation marks are going to be so much smaller, so much thinner between you and the next person because everybody has essentially the same talent in the room. So now instead of waiting for somebody else to see that, instead of waiting for somebody else to discover it, we talked earlier, instead of blaming other people, taking the accountability, taking the control, and really driving that yourself. And I think as you talk about turning discipline into dominance for business, there's a lot of lessons there for people in their own careers as well. It's not necessarily knocking on your boss's door and bragging about how awesome you are, but in how you execute your role every day and how you communicate with others and how you lead others and how you take responsibility, making that an intentional effort to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. I think listening to that, that's one of maybe the biggest moral that I got from that story.
Discipline in and of itself is a differentiator. And the reason why it's a differentiator, Michael, is because so few people have it. And the reason why it's such a powerful differentiator is because everybody knows that it exists. So it's not like you have some patented technology that you protected by filing a trademark and nobody else can use, even though they see it, they just can't use it. Discipline is an open secret. Everybody knows about it. Everybody generally understands what it is. And everyone can give you an example of some way that they either have it or need it. What separates the pros from the amateurs is the willingness to actually use it and having the right system or structure to implement it so that you can use it and stick with it, which is what a lot of people fail to do. Using it and sticking with it. But again, it's not like anyone is completely ignorant to the concept.
Perfectly said. So I have a feeling that this ties into your third day concept. And you're going to have to educate me on what it is. But the first 2 days are likely the easiest. But who shows up for the third day? Who keeps working? Am I on the right track that this discipline to stick with it? Does that tie into your third day concept, or am I guessing wrong here?
You're guessing correctly. That is exactly what it is. So the third day, the subtitle of the concept is the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. And a key word there is decision, because let me explain what the third day is first, as you just explained. First day, somebody shows up for something, they're all excited to do it. Everyone shows up early and doing their best. Second day, everyone's pretty much still there, but not quite as excited. And by the third day, you find out who's serious. And third day doesn't have to be literally day 1, 2, 3. Third day is any situation or circumstance in any place where people have found out, okay, this thing that I signed up for is going to be some real work. It's going to take some real effort. There's not going to be one big party, and there's a real grind involved in this. And interestingly enough, especially in the professional world, entrepreneurial world, sports world, every world, people always have, the whole concept of greener pastures. All right. Sure. People think the grass is greener on the other side. Newsflash, everybody listen to this. Any career you pick, there is a grind. There isn't a single one you can pick where there is no grind. There is a grind to being an engineer. There's a grind to being a pro athlete. There's a grind to being a YouTuber. There's a grind to writing books. There's a grind to being a professor. Any job you pick, there is going to be a grind. That is something you have to do over and over and over again, that there will be days you don't really feel like doing it, but if you don't do it, you are not doing the job. And if you think there's a career that doesn't have a grind, go pick it. And I guarantee you're going to find out there's a grind, always. So the third day concept actually came from back in the days when I used to play basketball. I used to put all these basketball videos on YouTube. and I put out videos every day. And the players noticed that I would be in the same gym every day and I'd be practicing. And you could hear, because when you're in a basketball gym, there's a bunch of people dribbling basketballs, you hear the balls bouncing. But in the gym that I would be in, Michael, you don't hear my basketball. You don't hear any other balls. And a lot of kids, when you're trying to come up playing basketball, one of the hardest things to do is to find a court where you can practice by yourself without a bunch of other kids in the way. So they were intrigued, like, Dre, how do you have this gym to yourself? Do you own the gym? Is it attached to your house? Do you rent out the facility? And it was none of the above. It was just that I showed up to the gym more often than everybody else. And sometimes there'd be random people in the gym. If I went to the gym every day for a whole year, maybe out of that whole year, I would get there first thing in the morning. So I did get up early. But other than that, everybody knows how to get up early. Anytime somebody tells me they can't wake up early, I ask them, have you ever called a 6 a.m. flight? And they all say yes. I say, okay, so you can wake up early. Okay. You just choose not to. Now, out of 365 days in a year, let's say I go to the gym, let's take the weekends off, let's say 300 days. Maybe out of 300 days, maybe 25 times somebody else will be in the gym. The other 275, I had the gym to myself. Not because I told anybody not to show up, because they just didn't show up. And I just showed up so consistently that if you saw, I'll tell you a funny thing. I mentioned LeBron James earlier. So I told you I'm in Miami. So you remember LeBron James used to play for the Miami Heat.
I do.
So at one point, LeBron had I think it was Powerade, the drink.
Yeah.
So he did I think it was Powerade. He did some type of endorsement deal with them. And they had him go to a basketball gym and do like a workout or something for Powerade, a promotional thing. And he did the video. They recorded it in the same gym that I used to do my workouts in. So when that video came out of LeBron doing his workouts in that gym, a bunch of people leaving comments on the video like, yo, that's Dre Baldwin's gym. Because they all knew the gym from me, because I'm the one who used to be in that gym. I basically branded that gym as my facility. So if somebody saw it to this day, they would say, that's the gym Dre used to work out in all the time. It's actually not far from where I'm at to this day. The point is, I just showed up so often that the players started asking, how is it that you're able to show up every day and record these videos every day? Because I want to do that, Dre. I just don't feel like it. It goes back to these emotions. I don't feel like working out every day. And that's when I explained, everybody's excited the first day they show up, a little bit less on the second day. And then eventually you're going to get to a point that you don't feel like doing the thing that you know you're supposed to be doing. So what do? That's when I explained the third day. And then I turned it into a process, because the third day is not just me motivating you to go do it. Even in those years, another tangent here, I used to get players reaching out to me saying, Dre, can you give me something? Can you tell me something motivational and make me go to the gym and work out? Because I want to practice every day just like you do, but I don't always feel like it. And I would always tell them, no, I could, but I won't. And the reason why I won't is because, are you going to email me again tomorrow and ask for motivation again? And the day after that, like, no. If you don't want to do it, go find something that you don't need to be motivated to do. Go find something that you will show up every day on your own volition. Because if it ain't going to be this, don't play basketball. It's not like this is something you have to do. You don't have to play. You don't want to play, don't play. But if you want to play, understand if you're going to go somewhere in this sport, the higher level you go, everybody else is going to be just as good as you are. And what's going to separate you from them is, what are you going to do besides just have talent? Again, there's a few people who are so good that just on talent alone, they're going to keep elevating. Most people ain't that. I'm not that. I'm good, but I ain't that good. And I had to add in the discipline. And that's what got me up to that higher level, even in the world that I'm in now. I'm good. I'm not that good that my phone's just ringing off the hook. Like, we've been recording here, my phone hasn't rung. All right, so I ain't that good. All right, so I still have to do the discipline things to keep things moving forward in my business and my career and what I'm doing. So back to answering your question about the third day. The third day is definitely my most popular concept with professional audiences when I talk about this, because everybody gets it. They understand it. I'm talking about something that everyone already gets. They already know. They know they need more discipline. It's just people need the language to put around it, and they need the understanding of why it matters, because the third day doesn't pay off on the third day. So let's say tomorrow, listeners to the show, tomorrow you have one of those days you don't feel like working. You don't feel like being there. You don't have the energy. And you know you don't. But you show up anyway, and you have a great day, you give all the effort. There's no reward. There's no trophy. Nobody claps for you. Nobody cares. But as you put those days together, you get the compound interest, so to speak, of continually showing up. That's when, in the long run, it pays off. So it's another challenge with the third day, is that there's no instant gratification. It's delayed gratification. You don't get the gratification until, again, you start playing basketball when you're 14. You don't play pro till you're 23. All right, who can be disciplined for that long? Most people can't. Right? That's the reason why the third day is the secret hiding in plain sight, because anybody can do it. It's just most people don't have the stick-to-itiveness, the persistence, the discipline to just keep showing up, even though there's no result yet. And everyone around you is looking at you like, okay, your friends are doing this person's doing this person has this result. They're getting all these bright, shiny objects. You're just plugging away at something that hasn't paid off yet. Now, when are you going to go do something else? When are you going to go do something that works? Do you have the discipline to stick to it and stick to your plan, even though, again, it hasn't turned over yet?
And that is the big separation point, because it is hard. There's any number of things that I haven't maintained the discipline on. Like I can confess to that. Certainly when my son had his first wrestling tournament a few weeks ago, he didn't do as well as he thought he was going to do. In his second tournament, he did a lot better, a lot closer to what his expectations were. He's 8, he's brand new to the sport. And so he was feeling better after his second tournament. And after the first tournament, a lot of the conversation, I didn't say it as eloquently as you just did, but like, this is the first day in a long journey. So this is where it starts. This isn't where it ends. It all builds from here. It gets easier from here. The work comes together. But after he did better in the second, I brought him over to the mirror on the passenger side of my wife's truck. I was like, read that. What does that say? And he said, objects in mirror are closer than they appear. I'm like, that's you. But it's hard to understand. It's hard as an adult to wrap our brains around that, let alone a kid to wrap your brains around that. But to your point, that discipline to continue showing up, getting beyond that third day, that's where that gap starts to close, unless it's the LeBron James, Steph Curry, Jason Tatums of the world, and they've got that genetic advantage. There's something else that I've heard you talk about is part of my preparation that I think ties into this as well. And that's the concept of asking ourselves better questions. Because I'm going to guess, in order to get past that third day, in order to maintain that discipline, in order to find motivation on the days that we don't have it, and I certainly struggle with that, I'll admit to that openly, that if we ask ourselves better questions, if we do a better job opening ourselves up to the possibilities in the world around us, then we can be more consistent at turning this discipline into dominance. So 2 questions. Am I on the right track with that? And whether I am or not, how do we ask ourselves better questions to unlock the power of discipline?
Great question. And yes, you're on the right track. What people should understand is that that's all thinking is asking yourself questions and answering them. That's it. Thinking is just a continual Q&A session that we have with ourselves. You ask yourself a question and you answer it. And anybody who knows anything about litigation, you ever watch Law and Order or some legal TV show, or you actually watch actual litigation, you understand that the person asking the questions controls the frame. So the lawyer who is doing the cross-examination, they are controlling the frame, and their job is to ask questions that are framed in a certain way that no matter how the cross-examined witness answers it, it works in the favor of the attorney. If a police officer is doing an interrogation, you notice that they're the ones asking the questions. They don't answer questions, they ask questions. If a cop stops you, they ask questions, they don't answer questions. The person asking the questions is always in control of the frame. Like right now, we're having this conversation. You're asking the questions, I'm answering them. It's your show. It makes perfect sense. So the thinking, when it comes to asking yourself a better question, is all about reframing your thought process by changing the quality of your questions. And when you change the quality of your questions, then the quality of your answers must naturally change, because you can only answer the question that was asked of you. So and all of this is happening in the subconscious mind. So if someone has an issue of, I can't wake up early to go to the gym. I want to go to the gym before I go to work in the morning. I got to be at work at 8 o'clock. That means I'll have to get up at like 5:30. I can't get up at 5:30 and work out. I'm too tired. That's what they believe. So when they ask themselves the question, how can I get up at 5:30? The answer is, I can't. That's what they're doing. So instead, ask yourself the question, if I was to get up at 5:30, how could I restructure my life and my day to make it work? How could I go to bed at 9:30 instead of 11:30 so that I wouldn't be groggy when I woke up that early? What would it do for me if I was able to work out every morning and get myself into better shape and get the workout out of the way before my day started? So now I'm already wide awake and refreshed by the time I get to the office. I'm not spending my first hour waking up, and I'm actually hitting the ground running by the time I get to the office and start working. If you ask yourself higher quality questions, again, you have no choice but to supply higher quality answers. So asking yourself a better question is all about just reframing your thought process. And you could use something as simple as, if it's not another person, you can go fire up some AI bot, whichever one you like, Grok, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google, whatever, and tell it, hey, Give me 50 higher quality questions that would help me wake up early in the morning, because I don't think I can wake up early in the morning. I guarantee you within 30 seconds, I'm going to give you 50 questions. And out of those 50, 25 of them will be useful for you if you would actually answer them. Actually, just answer all 50. And if you answered all 50, I guarantee you that would help you in reprogramming your thought process. Or you can go talk to a human being who can actually help you with this as well. Or somebody who actually does wake up at 5:30 in the morning, they can help you as well. So that asking yourself a better question, again, is just replacing the poor questions with better questions. And when you ask yourself a better question, the subconscious mind, and you ask it over and over again, subconscious mind has no choice but to accept it, because the subconscious mind is reprogrammed either through repetition, emotionalization, or immersion. So if you give yourself anything over and over and over again, the subconscious mind eventually accepts it. If you want an example of this, notice that everyone listening to this understands the words that I'm saying. What are words? Words are formulated by letters, and letters come from the alphabet. Does everybody here know the ABCs? Everybody knows the ABCs. How many times did you sing that song when you were in kindergarten? 1,000,000 times. Repetition. And any of you have a song in your head that you haven't even heard in a long time, but when you think of it, it just sticks in your head. Or a song you don't even like, but you keep hearing it, and now it sticks in your head.
Worst.
You like the song. Yeah, exactly. Why? Because of repetition. You hear anything over and over and over again, your subconscious mind eventually accepts it, and it replays it on a loop over and over and over again. So if you put better quality questions in your subconscious mind, it'll keep asking you the question. And if your subconscious keeps asking you the same question, you have no choice but to eventually answer it. And if it's a good question, it should be designed in such a way that no matter how you answer it, it is advantageous for you. That is the way you set your mind to work for you rather than against you. That's the reason why it's called mindset. You set your mind, and you do it on purpose. It's not something that just randomly happens to you unless you allow that.
I love all of that. The way that you said it, asking better questions leads to better answers, reframing. And the reframe example you gave, I hope people didn't miss that, is spectacular. If I ask myself, how can I get up at 5:30 in the morning? Well, I can't. I've tried my whole life. I suck at getting out of bed. I'm too tired. I need more sleep. I'm not going to do it. But if I ask the question, how do I restructure my day so I can work out at 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is to have to get up at 5:30. Now we're asking a different question. We're focusing on the outcome. We're focusing on solutions, not problems. We arrive at higher quality answers. I love all of that. Keep an eye on the clock. Want to be very respectful of your schedule. I really appreciate all that you're sharing today. A lot of what you're talking about is structure and process, which I love. Going back to how we started the conversation, I also feel like you have very strong intuition. And a lot of that intuition is no doubt driven by experience. And I'm going to make another guess that with all this time you spent overseas, that you got to interact with lots of different people, lots of different cultures, lots of different structures, lots of different rule sets. If we have time for 2 questions, great. But if not, I'll go with this one first.
We got time.
When you placed yourself in all of those different scenarios, what did that teach you about you?
And that's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. And your assumption is correct. I've been to damn near every state in America. I've been to a bunch of different countries, dealt with people from all different backgrounds, colors, shapes, sizes. And what did it, tell me the question again?
You were forced, you chose to put yourself in all these different new novel situations. Mm-hmm. What did you learn about yourself?
What I learned about myself in all those different situations is that I and all human beings are very adaptable creatures. So we are highly adaptable. And that, going right back to what I talked about from answering the previous questions, that a lot of people put themselves in a box that they can't get out of because they believe that they're a certain way. I'm this type of person and I can't change. Now, there are certain ways that you do want to be a certain type of person and not change. Those are called principles. But everything else should be flexible and subject to change, such as your opinions. So what I found is that you put me, when I got into those different environments, that I eventually adapted to pretty much everything. Everything gets adapted to if you experience it often enough. This is, again, going back to the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind eventually identifies anything that's going to be consistent and it tunes it out. It basically deletes it so that you're not experiencing it as a surprise every single time it happens. It's kind of like somebody lives in a big city like New York City. Eventually, your subconscious mind tunes out the sound of ambulances and police sirens and honking horns because it's always going on. Right down here in South Florida, we got wild roosters and chickens that run around the streets. And at 3:00 in the morning, they let you know they're there. And eventually you don't even hear it anymore. You don't even hear the sound. The subconscious mind tunes it out. So when you put yourself in a lot of different environments, the subconscious mind starts to understand this environment, this environment, this environment. And as you stack up those experiences, you pretty much, quote unquote, seen it all. So if you follow sports, let's take someone like, since you're a Patriots fan, Tom Brady. When he got to his peak as a player, I guarantee you there's some clip out there, you can probably find it. I didn't even hear him say it. I guarantee he said it, that he got to a point where he said the game slows down for him. Sure. You always hear athletes say that. Michael Jordan says it. Michael Phelps says, everybody says the game slows down. What does that mean? It means that while everyone is literally moving at a very fast speed and things are happening pretty quickly, in football, the quarterback got to get rid of that ball in 3 seconds or you're laying on your back. If you've seen so much and you had so much experience, it's almost like you can predict what's going to happen, and it's not happening fast for you, even though you're doing it fast. And it's the same thing when it comes to life. And for myself, is that I've had so much experience that it's pretty much nothing anybody could say to me that's going to surprise me. Now, you may ask me a question I haven't been asked, but it doesn't surprise me. There's a difference. There's somebody, I can get myself into a new experience right now, but there's something in that experience that I can relate to, something that I've seen before. And that's where just having life experience and being around matters, and something that I think both of us can relate to as parents. Your child is a little bit older than mine. But in this generation where kids don't want to go outside, we saw it as a punishment when we couldn't go outside. They see it as a good thing when they don't go outside. They want to sit on the computer or on the iPad. And we didn't want to look at the screen, wanted to go outside. Going outside was the privilege. So, and when I say going outside, I don't mean running around the block on a bike. What I mean by going outside is getting new experiences with new people, going to new places and exposing yourself to different environments. And I did that so often that now I do feel like I've seen a lot, I've known a lot, and I probably experienced a lot more than the average person. And the key is, Michael, is my ability to articulate and explain it. It's not just that I've done it, because there are other people who've experienced a lot of stuff, but they can't talk about it. They can't break it down and contextualize it for a person who hasn't seen it. I have the ability to contextualize it and explain it. And that's really my superpower. And that's why my business is based around it.
And they're two different things. And I'll vouch for both, even after a short conversation with you. Articulating it, you do very well. But that's one thing potentially, like being able to articulate experiences, but to be able to contextualize them for other people, they're parallel, but that's a whole different one. I'm sure you've met people that can articulate things in one way. But if you ask them to try to adapt it to another context, another person, another group, another situation, they'd struggle to do it. So I would argue that the contextualization piece is even harder than the articulation piece. And I'll vouch, I think you do a great job with both. One quick question. It's really almost the opposite of the last one. Having been all around the world and met so many different people and been in so many different environments, what has that taught you about interacting with other people?
One of the most important skills you need. I was live stream earlier this morning, and I told you I was talking about the AI engineers and the tech engineers. I'm not even in that space, but I was talking about it. And you know what they say is that with all those jobs that are open for people to get, is that most of those jobs are not posted on LinkedIn job boards. You know how most of those jobs get filled? You know the answer, Michael? Of
Networking.
Course.
Yeah.
Knowing somebody who knows somebody. All the jobs, none of those jobs are posted on boards. None of those jobs are Googleable. You can't find them on careerbuilder.com or Monster. Those sites even exist anymore. You find those jobs because somebody knows somebody, and you made yourself known through your efforts, and then they come find you, and then they come into your space. Me, for example, when new people come into my world, it's almost always because they either heard me on my content or they heard me on somebody else's platform. Almost always to this day right now. It's not off Instagram ads or Facebook posts, Facebook ads. It's off of somebody knows somebody. And through that know, like, and trust factor, that's when they come in and find me. And I even asked my audience this morning, I was about 200 people in the stream, and I was asking them, how many of you have ever, if you think back to the best business deal you ever did or best job you ever got, did it come from a job board? Did it come from somebody knowing you and you knowing somebody? The answer was 100% somebody knew me or I knew somebody. That's how I got it. That's the key when it comes to that interaction and working with other people is you have to know people and people have to know you. And that's another thing going right along with your previous question, Michael, is when you have a lot of life experience, a lot of people know you and you know a lot of people. And you've dealt with a lot of different people. So when you meet somebody new and you get a feel for their personality and style, you've probably seen that somewhere before. And the more things you've seen, the easier it is for you to adapt to the next thing you see.
just that quote right there. The more things you've seen, the easier it is to adapt to the next is genius. Let's go out on a high note, man. That was awesome. I really appreciate all you've taught me. Every time you see me look down, man, I'm taking notes. The whole time I'm listening to you, I appreciate it. I have no doubt that people have been taking notes along with us. For people that listen to this going, damn, this is great. I want to learn more from Dre. Where do they go to connect with you?
Well, I'm on all the social media platforms. You can find me on any one of them. My name, just look up my name, Dre Baldwin, and learn more about what we're working on right now. You can just go to powerpresenceprotocol.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure all of those links are in there for you. Man, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I really appreciate you sharing all your time, your expertise, and your perception today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, Michael. I appreciate you sharing your platform.
Oh, my pleasure, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Dre, thank you so much for a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate all that you shared, especially from your very unique experience. And I love how you wove it all together, that interplay between structure and discipline and presence and confidence, and how you applied it to our professional lives for athletes and to our personal lives as well. And thank you for bringing my son into this. He's going to be really excited when he listens. So thank you so much for all that you shared today. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of you who took the time to listen to another episode this week. Again, I hope you took as many notes as I did listening along to Dre, and you follow him moving forward as well. Thank you so much. While you're online today, please take a couple quick seconds to like the show, share it with your network, subscribe to it. Of course, please leave us your feedback. We'd love to hear more from you. And don't forget to check out our sponsors. Head over to humantel.com to begin the journey of developing the skill set necessary to understand when people's emotions are shifting by accurately evaluating their facial expressions and nonverbal communication. You can read all of their research, then choose the online training program that's best for you. And when you do, enter the code INQUASIVE25 for 25% off the best-in-class training of your choice. For the professional interviewers, please head over to certifiedinterviewer.com. That's where you can get all your questions answered for both the International Association of Interviewers and the Certified Forensic Interviewer designation. All of that and more at certifiedinterviewer.com. And finally, while you're online, please check out inquasive.com to learn more about the programs our clients ask us to customize for their senior leaders, sales team, HR team, and more to teach them how to uncover hidden value in all of their high impact conversations. We appreciate you being here for another week. Thank you so very much. Stay safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.